right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Outraised Voices. I'm your host, Sharon Lee Williams. I'm so glad you came back to see us again and to be in our community. I appreciate you. If you're new here, thank you for showing up. Bring a friend, tell a friend. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This community needs your voice and your ears and your support. We talk about in Outraised Voices, we are a community of CEOs and guests who have been through foster care, adoption, who've been raised outside their family of origin, culture, religion, and we have experts on, like we are having today. Our expert CEO today is Angela Carter. Now, normally I would do a bio on Angela, but we are going to go straight to Angela, and we are going to have Angela tell us about her whys, who she is, what's up, all of that stuff. So welcome, Angela Carter. And let's start with who are you? Who's Angela Carter?
Thank you so much, Sharon Lee. Who is Angela Carter? I am multifaceted, I'll just say that. But I'm not the CEO now. I'm the retired executive director of Roots Community Services. I still work with the organization in an advisory capacity, but I'm retired. I'm at that age. Past that age, actually. So, but I'm still very involved with the organization and with the work. And who am I? Well, in relation to the topic we're talking about, I'm from Barbados, and I was raised by my aunt. Informal, how it's done in the Caribbean, kinship and stuff. I'm from a family of 10 children. I'm number 9. And my aunt, she had only one child. And when he'd left and stuff, and her marriage didn't really work, she didn't have a divorce, but she was separated. My mother with her sister with 10 children, she with none. I was the one that was taken to live with her. So I grew up I went there when I was about 4.5 years. And I grew up as an only child, but I had 9 siblings. So just think about the juxtaposition of that. So I do understand, and I have that is disconnect, connect kind of relationship. So that part of me, as it fits with this topic we're talking about. However, within Roots Community Service, which I led for just over 8 years, we work very closely with Peel Children's Aid and Halton Children's Aid societies, and work with families and youth and children that were involved with these societies, and either in care or involved in some way. So we do have a lot of we saw firsthand what was happening and what we're doing. And we have worked very closely at helping to bring that cultural sensitivity and lens to what is happening. Because, as you know, the Black community and the Indigenous communities are disproportionately involved with those societies.
Yes, absolutely. And that is one of the reasons. I'm just going to tell you, so the CEOs, everybody's a CEO who comes here because they bring conversation, education, and outreach. So you are my CEO. Yes. So, but I wanted to ask you, now being raised, that's a very interesting story, being raised as an only child with siblings who are around the corner, present, or were you in contact with them or not?
Yes, when this happened when I was born in 1956, so a while ago. And
you're young.
At that time, although I'm from a very small island, really very small island in the Caribbean, where I was living it wasn't very close enough that we can really walk to each other. So I saw them primarily in my earlier days on vacations, right? School
Right.
vacations. Then afterwards, we travel more and I saw them more often. But in my early years, I saw them only on vacations. So yeah, but I knew they were there. I knew I had sisters. Sometimes they would come and visit me. And then on vacations, I would visit them. But
So how
yeah.
did that, I'm going to get into the mindset because there is a community out there who we're exploring lives of everybody so that we don't feel so alone. But how being raised that way, do you feel that it helped you in terms of what you're doing now or how you came to, like you talked about, your need to do the uplifting work. So did that help you in wanting to uplift others, that isolation in some ways, or?
Yes, my upbringing did shape a lot of the work I do, because all of my siblings, they've all been in the corporate world. All my sisters, except for my eldest, were all bankers. I did work in a bank too, but not as a banker. So but I was the one that really look at society in a different way.
Yes.
I wanted to work. I always ask the questions like the why is it that, and so my thing was, why is it that the black people seem to be the poor people? That was one of my questions from very early. And the white people seem to be the ones with the wealth. I remember sitting on our veranda, and I was about 8, and I just asked the question to myself. I never ask anyone, do you have to be white to be rich? That was my question.
Wow.
And I sought to answer that question myself over the years. And while it seems that was the situation, it doesn't have to be. I know that it doesn't have to be. And I, from a very young age, took that interest of, no, we need to uplift people. We need people to be able to rise above poverty. And I started reading and studying, about slavery and colonization and all of this. Obviously, of course, the books that we were reading at the time did not really paint a true picture of slavery.
Accurate, yes,
but
yes. No.
As I got older and I continued reading, I understood. So and then I saw. So I wanted to. No, we have to uplift everyone. Why can't we all enjoy a quality of life that is meaningful to us? And everybody's quality of life is not the same, But why can't society, why can't resources be shared enough that we all can have a quality of life? And some people don't have to be homeless or begging, or having to go to food banks all the time. Why?
It's such
not
a big
necessary
question.
in a world like that which we live.
Well, it's such a big question, as you know. It's the question's been going on since the beginning of time, and I don't know if we'll ever have the answers to that.
No.
But it's always a good question to ask ourselves. Your mindset. So after you're asking these questions about why do white people seemingly have the money or the power and we don't, you seem to have stepped through that mindset. How did you get through that mindset and say, okay, I'm going to go for this, or I'm going to do that, and no barriers in my way? Ain't no stopping us now, kind of thing.
I'm not even sure. It's just through reading. I did a lot of reading, and I was always curious and adventurous. So, and I just followed that. My aunt was very strict. Compared, and then when I saw how, especially my youngest sibling, she had a lot more freedom than I did, and it's like, okay, why is this? Oh, again, I always look at this. Why is there disparities? Why is there these inequities? Why? The question. But anyway, when I left school, I started working. I worked in the bank for about 6 years, and during that time, I got married, had my kids, but that wasn't the life for me. I was miserable. I didn't like the job, didn't like my husband. And I kind of one day decide, I got separated, and one day decided, I'm leaving the bank. This is not for me. And I left. And anyway, and then I start looking for another job. And one landed in my lap that was I get God intervention of the divine. I was introduced to the editor of the Nation newspaper in Barbados, and when talking with him, he asked me about my job. I said, "Well, I'm looking for a job." So he said, "Do you write?" I said, "Of course I do." Well, I really didn't do any newspaper writing, but I was always a confident person. I can do it, right? And I got a job there, and that was the ideal job for me. It helped me to grow and to really feed into my curiosity and adventure spirit, and to be able to do that. And I found there that that role of journalism, of taking nebulous or complex issues or information and being able to write it for everyone to be able to read it and understand, and bring issues to people. That was me. I found myself in that work. And through there, I started doing stuff. I started getting involved with, I was a member of the Barbados Association of Journalists, and I helped to form our school's alumni group. So I started to get involved in outside of work in society to do things and to help build and help, get people motivated to do things. And that has continued from then until now.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. So when did you come to Canada, and why?
I came here in 1989, and the reason was primarily I have two daughters, and I know I was lucky. They would have to go to university. I was a single parent. I know I couldn't send them overseas by myself, so some of my sisters and brothers were here. And I said, okay, I'll apply to come to Canada. I had come to Canada, on vacation and stuff. And I came so that get them into school and they can then get to university and go on from there, right? One wanted to be a vet. The other wanted to be a mechanic. Neither of them did what they said they wanted to do, but they ended up doing different things. But that's life, right? And but that's the reason I came. And I had said, remember I said to my boss, the editor then, I said, I'm leaving, but I'll tell you, I'm not running away from anything. If I don't find a job within 6 months, I'm coming back. So you better have a job for me.
Oh, wow.
I didn't go back. I settled here. And, I started working at Share when I came, Share newspaper.
Yes.
But then I wanted to do much broader, and I ended up going back into the banking, believe it or not. But I saw I could get into the communications department there, and that's where I ended up in communications in the bank. After working I worked for a few years in the branches, and then went into corporate into the corporate center.
So now we know who Angela Carter is. Not just those things define you, but now let's move over, getting into Children's Aid.
Yes.
And working with youth and working with families. When does that begin? I know you said you're, Roots Community Services. So that's where you were the CEO of that at one point?
Yes.
And you're still involved with them. But besides that, when did you get involved with youth and families, and because that's big transition.
After I came here, soon after I came, and I moved into Brampton in the Peel region, and I got involved with an organization, United Achievers Club, and they were giving scholarships, and they were doing, really work in the community, had a youth group and stuff. And I got involved because, again, there's an opportunity to work and help to uplift. And through that organization, I was the lead for the youth group. We had a drop-in a drop-in
Center or something.
group every week and stuff like that. So I worked with them, and I also saw what was happening with our seniors and with women who are in abusive situation. And we would do a lot in education. We started a mentorship program for youth because we saw what was happening for youth. We did, as I said, the scholarship awards every year. And, so I was very involved. We formed the United Achievers Community Services to then get more funding to do more of that work. And it was with this organization.
I just want to ask you something. Sorry.
This leads into Roots.
Okay.
Yes, because United Achievers Community Services, right? That's the organization was doing this work. Then I left and went back to Barbados for a few years, and I came back. And they were then looking for an executive director. The United Achievers Community Services, so it's coming back. And I was encouraged to apply because, at that stage we were going through some difficulties, and I applied and I got the position, contract. And from there, so I got back in, so that organization I started volunteering with, I ended up, being the executive director of this organization. And I started to build from there, and we changed the name to Roots Community Services in 2019. So it's right. So it did come back. So that's why I was telling you that story, because it started back in the early 90s. And one of the programs we had was with Peel Children's Aid Society, working with them to provide culturally appropriate services to the Black youth, as there was a very disproportionately represented in the Children's Aid there. And that's
I wanted to ask a question about that, because youth, is it, and I always ask this question, are there more females or young women or young men, or is it equal? What is the situation, I guess, in Peel, because you can't do all of Toronto, but what is the situation that you noticed?
It fluctuated. So we have two programs with Peel Children's Aid, actually, and we also work with Halton Children's Aid. What we found, we were working first with the parents, right? Because we found that, the blame was laid at the parents' feet. So we started to work with the parents to find out, okay, what is happening, to try to figure out what's happening in the home, to help them, be able to bridge that gap with their children. But we found, but I can tell you the parents were very 98% female for sure. There were females, but it was primarily women that were the parents. The children were, as I said, it fluctuated. Sometimes we could have more male, sometimes we found there were more female that were involved with CAS. But some of the things they were involved in that we realized were frivolous. Why is it that some of these things are going to Children's Aid, a file is being opened on this family and then it's going to stay there for life, when it could have been dealt with outside of Children's Aid, right?
Yes, let's talk about that story. Yes, please. Let's talk about the story you told me about the family and was it the Patties or?
The Rotis.
The Rotis.
Yeah, there was a case that was referred to Children's Aid for a child who took to school rotis 3 days in a row, I think it was. Anyway, more often than one day. And the teachers considered that to be neglect because they said it was not a nutritious meal, and called Children's Aid for that family. And actually a file was open on that family. And that's before we got involved. And it's like, but why? Something like that should never go through. So a lot of things we do, we work with Children's Aid to say, some of these things that are coming to you, primarily from the schools and police, can you do probably a thing first before you open a file? The problem was too that the funding formula for Children's Aid societies from the government is based on the number of files they open. So obviously it is necessary for them to open the files to keep getting funding. So over the years, we have been working with them to say, no, we need to push back. We need to let them know, why is it? It shouldn't be that way. There should be another. Prevention is better than intervention.
Yes.
Why
Yes.
is it that we have to have a file open on our families that have the stigma around them, right? Before we can provide them with the help or support them. So those are things we worked on with Children's Aid. I mean, there are some stories that are horrendous, and Children's Aid is needed. I'm not saying Children's Aid is not needed. There are some cases where they are needed.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of other cases, though, where they are not.
Do you find that most of the youth that you're dealing with, are they youth that have been in care, in foster care, or are they from their families and just didn't get along with their first families, or what have you noticed with that?
Yes, I get a mixture of them. We get those who are in care, those who in care, those who, yes, and those who are with kin, because that is something that we try to encourage as well, kinship, and those that are still with their families, but are still involved with Children's Aid. We try to get those who are in care back with their families, right? So we try to do that bonding as much as we can, but we try to work with the parents and the youth. So we have two programs, one that focus primarily on youth and one that focus on parents, to really understand where the breakdown occur. Some of the situations you find is when a parent may have come here and left their children back home, right? And then 5, 6, 7, 10 years later, send for that child come up, and especially if the parent has remarried and have another family, that child has a very difficult time sometimes fitting in. Those are a few cases. So that reunification part is very important. How do you manage that, right?
So when you're speaking with, when you're speaking with families, because, I'm always thinking unhealed scars in adults, raising young adults to be adults with unhealed scars. So when you're dealing with the families, is that addressed, or do people want to go there? Do families want to go there? Maybe there was trauma back then that they haven't dealt with. Do we get there with the families?
Very often. And I have to, I am not the person who deals with them. I am not a clinician, but I supervise, I hired them because I know this, issue. While I'm not a clinician, I understand some of of what I understand what they do, because, a part of my work and stuff and my studies, I've done that, but I'm not a clinician. So yes, our therapists, our counselors, they do that. They work with them from that trauma-informed lens, because and from that culture lens. So we often had to tell women, mothers, because coming from the Caribbean, we know it's not. Things are changing in the Caribbean for corporal punishment. So we understand that, but we know it was not. It was not a crime. It was not wrong to give your child a slap or, some lashes. I'm not talking about abuse. Abuse is totally different when we talk about that.
Yes.
It's not
Thank you
abuse,
for bringing this up.
but we discipline them with the rod, the biblical way.
Because that's the way we were disciplined. They were disciplined. That's going back generation. The rod, the teacher, and even myself in schools. I've said to people here, being raised in born and raised in Montreal, principals were able to strap you on your hand. So, so coming from the Caribbean and parents who are used to teachers, rods, and this and that, but understanding the difference between abuse and what do I want to see?
Abuse or discipline?
Discipline, yes, versus discipline.
Right.
So what are parents allowed to do? I always remember my son coming home when he was about 5, or I don't know, I guess a policeman had gone into the school, and he came home and he said, "Mommy, you can't hit me because I will call the police on you." I was like, what? So
3 months after I was here, my younger daughter told me those same words. One of the
Yeah.
first things she learned in school when they got here
Yes.
was that you
So
can't hit me because I can call the police on you. I said,
police on
well,
you,
here's a
report you and
beating.
all.
You call them now.
That's
I said, you call them now. Probably that's the last time
yes.
she got a slap from me.
Yes, yes, yes. But so what can you do? You're allowed to slap your baby on, or not your baby, but a child on the bottom, let's say. Are you or not?
No, they're not allowed to. It's slightest. That's one of the biggest thing a parent would get sent to children's aid for. The teachers, if they see any kind, sometimes they may see something, or a child might come home and say something happened. Oh, my mother beat me. You know how we would say to the car, my mother beat
Yes.
me.
As a,
They
you know,
immediately call children's aid. Immediately.
wow. So
Without,
you're always on, wow,
so
that's,
that is one. So we have to let the parents learn. You are not a bad parent. You are doing
yes,
what you
yes,
learn to do. Only
yes,
thing now we'll teach you some other techniques because it's done differently here. But you are
yes,
not because that parent now is, oh, she's the worst parent. I'm going through this whole thing, right?
yes.
No, you are not a bad parent because you did this. You're not a bad person. This is just we do things differently, and you just needed to understand what the way they do things. And we work with them to give them
Yes,
techniques, talk to them,
yes,
have them
yes,
talk with the child, try to understand these, and try to reunite and build back that bond between mother and child. So that is a lot of the work we do. But very often, a lot of the women that the parents are going to abuse themselves. Sometimes they're in abusive situations. A lot of them are. So we have to get our counselor that deals with women in abusive situations to work with that parent. Right? And so a lot of this is complex. It's not just
yes,
a
yes,
single thing. It's a complex
yes.
situation. So, sometimes we have to deal with the entire family because of what's happening. The man has to go somewhere else, the mother goes somewhere else, and the children do something else because of the complexities. And some of it's very deep rooted into what has happened when the parents were children.
Yes, unhealed. So sometimes to separate the children, to give the parents a break to figure out what they're doing can be very important. Disruptive for sure, but can be very important for the
For
development
healing.
of for
For
healing.
healing.
And yeah, it's very important because we think about it, oh, how can you do that? But sometimes it's just because a lot of adults don't talk about what went on. What are the
No,
scars?
no.
What are the scars and how are they affecting your relationships, whether it's a job or spouses or children, or our relationships with ourselves, So that's a big thing. And I'm so glad to hear that I know there are counselors out there and coaches. I don't know if there are enough. And do families come to it willingly, or is it something mandated? Counseling.
Well, with Children's Aid, what we do is not mandated. With Children's Aid, it is recommended. It is encouraged. So we said, here's a program. So the Children's Aid workers would say, there's a program here that would probably benefit you and probably help you get back with your child sooner. Would you like us to make that refer for you? Would you like to talk to the counselor over there? And that's how we do it. It's not mandated. Usually some of those mandated ones don't work, right? When they go through and it's mandated. Some of them don't work. We work with some of our partners that have mandated programs. We also started a program for men because the men don't like to talk about their feelings. And what we
Yes.
said if we are working with the women in an abusive situation and giving them all the tips and techniques of how to do things, but they're going back into a home where the man is not getting help, So one person is getting help. This person is becoming assertive. It's going to probably make matters worse because that man is not getting help and wondering why his partner is acting this way. So we started a program for men as well, where men can get counseling or join a peer group where they can talk to each other, really in a safe, in a space that is non-judgmental, so that they can really talk and champion each other through this work as
I
well.
love that word champion each other, where they feel is safe, because that's so important, especially with men. And I'm assuming it's run by men or facilitated
Yes.
by other men, and to just
Yes.
feel safe that they can open up. Because men, we assume that, they have unhealed scars. There are men who've been traumatized as children, and they
Yes.
just barrel through it in a different way to how women do. But it comes out. It comes out, somewhere. So with CAS, I've asked this question before. Does all of CAS work together? Like you're in Peel, but if you said to wherever, Toronto or Ottawa or something like that, do you work together in the sense of support and finances and programs?
As far as I know, the CSs are funded individually, but there is a umbrella body for them where they go and they do training and stuff like that. But they're all funded individually. So they're funded, so Peel CAS is funded different from Halton CAS, from Toronto CAS. They have similar mandates, and it's up to them. Like Peel CAS works closely with us, and they also work with other community agencies, for example, the South Asian and the Arabic agencies, because they realize they're having that same problem with some of the ethnic groups that live here in the region. Halton was working with us and South Asians, but the others may not do that kind of work. It is up to the individual CAS to want to work with groups like ours, right? It's not mandated, so it's up to them, and it's based on. I mean, it makes sense if you have a large population of other ethnic groups within their that's involved with them, right? So it's up to them to do that. But we do that. It's really working extremely well here in Peel region. We have been able to reduce. I don't have the exact stats, but I've been able to reduce the length of time a child is in care. We're able to get them back with their families, and we're able to help build that, rebuild that bond between parents and child and kin. So we've been doing lots of work here in Peel region with regards to that, and community has been getting involved with what they're doing. So yes.
So do you find that youth are coming to you and say, "Hey, I need help," or where can they go? Because we were on something the other day. I was not aware that there was a Black helpline. I didn't know that. So do youth know that, especially Black youth, say, okay, pick up the phone and...
Well, we try to promote these things. We don't run that helpline, but we tell them about that. But we also we have a support line as well, where our community can call, and if they need help, so anyone can call our support line, and we would refer them and connect them to someone that what they need at that time. People may call our connect line just to say, where's the nearest Caribbean or African grocery store to me, because they want to get that type of food, and we can provide them, or the nearest restaurant, or I need housing. How can you help me? We don't have housing, but we can connect them to workers that work with the housing, with the region appeal, and we can connect them and provide them with the support. You can say, call it, I'm not, I don't feel so good today. I need someone to talk to about, and we can connect them to someone. So that's what we do in our support line. And the Black Youth Helpline works with youth in a similar way. Help them provide counseling on the phone.
So do you find the youth are reaching out to yourself and to your groups and helplines?
I'm not sure. I find the youth don't, for us, more adults and more female reach out.
Yes,
we can, and that is stats from our helpline. I'm sure it's similar. The youth don't reach out as much, and not for help. They would prefer, they don't call. They would talk to someone that would link them to us, right? Or the school,
Right.
a teacher might tell them, come to us and provide that. And then they will call directly into our, to our counselor, or they might call the line then, or they would just come to our office, right?
Yeah.
I find that the youth don't reach out as much
So do the
as
schools reach out to
women.
you? Do the schools
Schools
say,
do.
the schools come and say there's a child or in trouble or in crisis, or can you step in, and how does that work?
Yes. So some schools will reach directly to us and say, okay, there's a situation here. Could you come in to the school and talk to? Because we need that culturally appropriate lens in this area. Or
Right,
the
right.
child, if they want to do it outside of school, they can reach out to the parent to say, this is this is an organization that you probably would like to talk to go on and see. So we get referrals from the schools, from various schools. Yes, we do that. But we also have a team that goes into the school as well.
Well, you may not know this, the numbers, but then again, you may. What is the population of, I guess, well, that might not be your question, but of youth and families that you're working with? What is the number, would you say? 5,500?
That Roots is working with.
Yes.
We would say our repeat client, the ones that come back for ongoing service, is about I would say about 2,000 annually of repeat clients that would come back.
That's good.
But we reach out in different ways, and we might go and talk to a group of youth and stuff that we don't count their numbers. And so on average, we can reach 25,000 people within a year in different ways. But repeat clients that come back for service and stuff like that is about 2,000.
Wow. Wow, that's fantastic. We spoke a little bit about the difference foster care in the islands and perhaps Africa. Can you sort of talk a little bit about that? I know people know about kinship, but just the different way it looks in the islands. Foster care or kids left.
There is foster care programs and adoption within, and I'm speaking for the Caribbean now, and I know Barbados primarily, within the various countries within the Caribbean and primarily English speaking, because this came especially in this English speaking. Some regulations and laws and stuff came down from the British government and stuff like that. However, a lot of this is not very strong, the foster care and stuff program. There's more kinship, as I said, more like and what happened in my case, right? You'll find more of that happening. There is state institutions. So if someone is abandoned or so, there is the homes, we call them homes, for that children can go to. And there are a few of those. The last I know, there were about 4 or 5 in Barbados. I remember we're a small country. Jamaica has the same. So we have what is called the Child Care Board, in Barbados, that deals with child welfare and all that. So the Child Care Board specifically look at that. Jamaica has a similar structure, and some of the other islands do as well have something similar to a child care board. But again, and most of support come from, that takes a village to raise a child, kind of.
Yes.
Most of that is what happens in the Caribbean. Yes. And Africa, definitely that kinship is stronger than even in the Caribbean. And again, they do also have foster care, but it's not as strong as here in North America or in Britain. They believe again in that village raising a child concept. And so kin would take and support, because they don't intend to take the child forever. They take the child, similar to foster care, support, help that parent while they're going through a difficult time, support the parent as well, and then the child can go back. So it's a lot of that. Growing up myself, I didn't know much. As I said, I didn't know much about, we never talk about foster parents or anything like that.
Right.
Oh, I live with my aunt, or I live with my grandmother, or I live with my sister, or something. That's what you would hear.
Yes. So has the Caribbean, have they adopted the discipline versus abuse? Have they adopted that idea? What is discipline? What is abuse? And or do they measure it the same way as they do here?
Yes, I think corporal punishment is still on the books, but it's it's frowned upon now. It's out of schools, so it is. Anything you hear about anything in school and anyone get punished is a big thing. It's not accepted. Put it that way. It's not accepted anymore. In the homes, this is not. What you do in the home is not as scrutinized as it is here, right? So you still have that up. You still can discipline your child, but understanding the abuse part, yes. To the point of abuse, no. We still think that was always wrong. Although people would take out their frustration on the kid.
Yes.
That kind of thing that happened. And very often is an underlying thing. You usually hear of kids leaving home and then coming back like 3 days later or something. Usually it's an underlying issue at home. And, but a lot of that we need to heal, I would say, from in the Caribbean. Yes. We need to heal from a lot of that because there was abuse in many cases. But where did the abuse stem from? It was perpetuated. It was passed on from generation to generation to generation. And we have to remember that not long ago, and we can probably go back, that there were still beaten people in the fields, working in the fields, and the four men used to beat them, in my grandmother's time and stuff. So that was not very long ago when you look at it in age. So it wasn't, we learned that from our colonial masters. And now they're telling us we are terrible to do that, but we learned it from them. That's one thing we have to remember. Yes, but we need to understand and deal with those scars and wounds that we have to get over that kind of thinking.
Yeah, because it wasn't an accepted. I mean, being cuffed or slapped or whatever. It could be from the person, as they say, down the gap or whatever it is. Somebody could hit you, but it's kind of like, oh, well, when I was young, it was, oh, well, I guess that's okay. I didn't feel it was abuse until I fought back. It was just the way things were.
Yes.
That's it.
And even at the workplace, I've seen where in the workplace, and probably this was when I was much younger, where the white manager slapped a young worker, right? Because he didn't do what he said to do. But that was, as I said, was much younger. Yeah, I mean, that can happen now because I guess the person will fight back. But but that was a young boy, just thing working in probably in the thing, and he got slapped for, boy, you don't know what you're doing, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Thank God a lot of that has changed. Because that was the old colonial way and that
of doing
superiority
control.
way of treating, right? So,
we
still have lots to learn, but I don't think that would happen now because
we can let go of that. So before we go, Angela, I wanted to ask you: is there a question I could have asked you that I haven't asked you? Something you'd like to talk about that I haven't asked you?
Just some of the, like what are some of the ways that we can probably change some of the solutions to now here within Canada. I think we really need to. And I know they're doing a lot of. They started to do a lot of the overhaul of the child welfare system here in Canada, in Ontario. just before COVID started, because we sat on some of these meetings, but then COVID came in. But I think they need to look at changing some of the colonial way and Eurocentric way of doing things. Actually, PLCS was looked as a prototype for some others. Look at the representation of who is going to CAS and find out why. Most of it's coming from the schools and the police. Why is that? What is causing that? So more of that investigation need to go on. Stop funding based on a formula of how many files are open, because obviously if CS is going to lose their funding because they didn't open this type of file, find another way, right? What about that prevention way? If someone come to them and they're able to divert them from being involved, that should count as something as well. Find a way of measuring that, right? So there are a number of ways that they can look at that. Look at the kinship care. How can they develop that more, alongside foster care? How can they develop that for communities like ours?
That's good. Yeah, that's
right?
good.
That's another way of looking at it. Yes. How can they recruit more Black and Indigenous and African people to be foster parents if they want to do that? Or, as you said, the kinship, use the kinship care that we're more accustomed to, and find a way of formalizing that. Ensure the cultural sensitivity of the workers towards the Black, Indigenous, Arabic, whoever that's in their community. Ensure not just one-time training, continuous training. Yes. And understanding differences. We were doing a training sometime, and I remember one of the workers say, so how do you deal with mixed race or biracial people? And yes, that's a big thing of the biracial, especially if they're born here, and kids that are raised by the non-Black side of the family. It's very difficult. We had
I've had that. We've had those discussions. Yes,
right. So that it makes a difference. In the Caribbean, we're all mixed, so we don't even think about it. Yes, we look at shadism, we look at colorism as a thing, because the closer to what you are, the more you're favored. So we look at it from that. But and we look at that shading, but we understood it. And we know what happened here. There's not that understanding of what it means, of that understanding of being biracial. And the kids don't know, and the non-Black side of the family doesn't understand it either, and understand what that child goes through, or how they think. We had a person who said to us that they thought they were white until they were age 16. And they had to deal with that, and up to, and this was like 10 years later, they still hadn't gone through it or worked through it. They don't know their identity. So being grounded in your identity makes a big difference. So these are things that need to be explained and understood. You may not understand that at the deep level if you haven't been there, right? My grandfather was a white man on the plantation. Do I know him? Never. I don't know who he is. Just know that's it. But we know that. We understand that kind of mission. We have to live with it. We didn't create it, but we have to live with it. What does it mean? My two daughters are very fair skin, right? Their father was fair skin. So how do you manage that? The people are very surprised when they introduce me as their mother.
Yes, me too.
So right? So all of these things.
I have that experience with my son.
Right. But they were born in the Caribbean, so they understand, and they understand how to maneuver that type of situation, right?
Yeah.
So these are the things these are the deep-rooted things that we need to deal with, and
to talk about.
Caseworkers need to understand.
That is, thank you so much for bringing that forward. Thank you. Because that's such a deeper, longer conversation. Maybe we'll have another conversation, and get into that a little bit more, because well, anyhow, it's
Yes.
the world, people, we're all, as you say, it's a complex situation. And asking the question, as you, Angela, started, why? Why? So I want to thank you, Angela, for saying yes to coming on the show, and thank you for being our CEO, Conversation, Education, and Outreach today. I appreciate it, and I wish you all the best. I know you're retired, but you haven't stopped. I can see you're not stopped. You're not really retired. You just retired. So
I'm
it's
retired from
all
a
good.
position, not from
From
work.
yes, from the passion. So I
Yes.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity to be with you.
So to our audience, you see, conversation, education, outreach. Reach out, find a place you can, an agency, someone, some place that you can help or do something. Bring your voice, make your voice present, because your voice matters. I'm Sharon Lee Williams, and this is Outraised Voices. Until next time.